The miracle of the sun, standing still, Joshua, and the supernatural battle. In this fascinating episode of biblical history, we are transported to a moment of intense battle and divine intervention. Joshua, the fearless leader of the Israelites, found himself before a monumental challenge, facing a coalition of Amorite kings who had united to destroy Gibeon, a city that had made an alliance with Israel. What could have been an imminent defeat turned into a powerful testimony of God's mighty power. Guided by his unwavering faith, Joshua led his men on a surprise night march, demonstrating his absolute confidence in divine guidance. His bold strategy was a direct response to Gibeon's desperate cry for help, as its inhabitants feared the wrath of the Amorite kings. As the Israelite army confronted their enemies with courage and determination, Joshua prayed an extraordinary prayer, daring to ask God to stop the sun and the moon in the sky. This unusual request was not born of doubt, but of complete trust in God's ability to intervene on behalf of his people. And God answered in spectacular fashion. While the Israelites battled their adversaries, the sun remained fixed in the sky, prolonging the day and granting them the time needed for a complete victory. This extraordinary miracle not only saved Gibeon from destruction, but also displayed God's unlimited power over all creation. As we contemplate this awe-inspiring narrative, we are reminded of the importance of faith and trust in the believer's life. Joshua shows us that true faith is not merely intellectual belief, but a deep conviction that expresses itself through action. He trusted God fully, daring to ask the impossible and witnessing the extraordinary. Therefore, as we reflect on the miracle of the sun standing still, may we be inspired to cultivate a faith like Joshua's, a faith that dares to believe in the impossible and rests fully in God's power to intervene in our lives. Let this story remind us of the greatness and goodness of our God, who is able to perform wonders far beyond our understanding. The battle context. After the death of Moses, Joshua assumed leadership of the Israelites, charged with guiding the men into the Promised Land, a territory filled with challenges and adversities. Joshua not only inherited the role of spiritual and military leader, but also the mission to conquer and establish Israel in the land God had promised to their ancestors. Early in his leadership, Joshua faced a series of battles as he sought to subdue the nations inhabiting the region. These diverse and powerful peoples included the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites, each with fortified cities and well-trained armies. Every confrontation tested Joshua's faith in God and his ability to lead. One of the most critical moments of this military campaign was the battle against a coalition of Amorite kings. Alarmed by Israel's success and by Joshua's alliance with the people of Gibeon, these kings united their forces to confront the growing threat. Gibeon was a significant, well-fortified city, and its alliance with Israel was seen as both treason and an imminent danger to the Amorite kingdoms. The coalition was led by Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, who called upon Hoham, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Debir, king of Eglon. Together they marched against Gibeon, which, despite its strength, could not withstand such a vast and organized force. In desperation, the Gibeonites sent an urgent message to Joshua, pleading for help. Joshua's courage and the alliance with Gibeon, the prelude to a miracle. Joshua, demonstrating courage and determination, responded immediately to the call. He led his army on a grueling night march from Gilgal to Gibeon, an exhausting journey of about 32 kilometers through rugged terrain. This swift and decisive action caught the Amorite kings completely by surprise at dawn, giving Joshua the initial advantage on the battlefield. Upon arriving at Gibeon, Joshua received divine encouragement. God said to him, "Do not be afraid of them, for I have given them into your hands. Not one of them will be able to withstand you." With this promise, Joshua led the Israelites into fierce combat, confident in the victory that God had already guaranteed. The context of this battle is crucial to understanding the miracle that would soon follow. Joshua not only had to demonstrate military skill and leadership, but also deep faith in God. The battle against the coalition of Amorite kings was not merely a territorial dispute, but a test of Joshua's and Israel's faithfulness to God's command and a testimony to the power of God in fulfilling His promises, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. The alliance with Gibeon. The inhabitants of Gibeon, a large and powerful city in the region, were well aware of Israel's impressive victories under Joshua's leadership. Fearing for their safety and survival, the Gibeonites devised a cunning plan to secure Israel's protection. Instead of facing Israel in battle, they chose diplomacy and deception to forge a peace alliance. The Gibeonites sent a delegation to Joshua at Gilgal, disguised as ambassadors from a distant land. They wore worn-out clothes, old sandals, and carried dry, moldy provisions, creating the illusion of a long journey. Approaching Joshua and Israel's leaders, they said, "We have come from a distant country. Make a treaty with us." They presented their dry bread, moldy supplies, and worn garments as proof of their supposed long travels. Joshua and the leaders of Israel, without consulting God, trusted appearances and the Gibeonites' story. Deceived by the ruse, they made a peace treaty with them and swore an alliance of protection. 3 days later, however, the Israelites discovered the truth. The Gibeonites were actually their close neighbors, living within the region. The revelation caused great consternation among the Israelites, but because the oath had been made in the name of the Lord, Joshua chose to honor the covenant. Although angered by the deception, Joshua and the leaders recognized that breaking the oath would bring dishonor to God's name. Instead, they condemned the Gibeonites to servitude, becoming woodcutters and water carriers for the congregation and for the altar of the Lord. The Gibeonites accepted their fate, choosing servitude over destruction. The anger of the Amorite kings. This alliance with Gibeon, however, sparked great outrage among the Amorite kings of the region. Gibeon was seen as a strategic and influential city, and its alliance with Israel was considered a direct threat to their power and security. Led by Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, 5 Amorite kings joined forces in a coalition to retaliate against Gibeon for their alliance with Israel. The Gibeonites, facing this imminent threat, sent a desperate message to Joshua at Gilgal. "Do not abandon your servants. Come quickly, save us and help us, for all the Amorite kings from the hill country have gathered against us." Joshua's response. Honoring the covenant made with Gibeon, Joshua quickly mobilized his army to rescue them. His decision to defend the Gibeonites demonstrated both his integrity and his commitment to keep his word, even though the alliance had been secured through deception. Joshua understood that an oath made in the name of God had to be upheld, reflecting values of faithfulness and honor. The exhausting and risky night march from Gilgal to Gibeon also highlighted Joshua's bravery and leadership. This alliance with Gibeon not only revealed the cunning of the Gibeonites and the integrity of Joshua, but also set the stage for one of the most miraculous events in Scripture, the battle in which the sun stood still. This battle would not merely be a display of Israel's military strength, but a divine intervention on behalf of God's people, reaffirming that the Lord was with Joshua and Israel in their mission to conquer the promised land. When Joshua received the Gibeonites' desperate plea for help, his response was immediate and decisive, showing unwavering faith and resolute determination. He swiftly organized his army to defend his new allies. The miracle of the sun standing still, Joshua's bold. Faith, Joshua's decision to act promptly, reflected his unwavering commitment to the covenant, even though it had been made under deceptive circumstances. He knew that the integrity and honor of Israel were at stake, and that the protection of their Gibeonite allies was now a matter of principle and duty. Trusting in God's promise to stand with Israel, Joshua led his army on a forced night march from Gilgal to Gibeon. This exhausting overnight journey was both a feat of military strategy and physical endurance, for Joshua understood that the element of surprise would be crucial against the coalition of Amorite kings. At dawn, the Israelite army arrived at the outskirts of Gibeon, rested and ready, catching their enemies completely off guard. The battle that followed was fierce and intense. The Amorite kings, confident in their numerical strength and united forces, were utterly unprepared for Israel's sudden arrival. Yet, more than tactical surprise, it was divine intervention that changed the course of the conflict. True to his promises, God fought alongside Israel in a way that made it unmistakably clear that this victory would be his doing. The Bible records that as the Israelites pressed against their enemies, God hurled great stones from heaven upon the Amorites. These massive hailstones caused destruction and panic in their ranks. In fact, Scripture notes that more enemies perished by the hail than by the swords of the Israelites. This supernatural intervention revealed that God himself was actively engaged in the battle, protecting his people and ensuring their triumph. But the miracle did not stop there. At a critical moment, Joshua made an audacious request of God. He prayed that the sun would stand still over Gibeon and the moon over the valley of Ajalon, so the Israelites would have more time to secure complete victory. And miraculously, God answered Joshua's prayer. The sun halted, and the moon stood motionless, prolonging the day until Israel had fully defeated their enemies. Joshua's petition reveals not only his unshakable trust in God, but also his recognition of God's sovereignty over nature and time. He understood that with God's power, even the laws of creation could be suspended. God answered in a truly miraculous way. As recorded in Joshua 10:13, so the sun stood still and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies. This event, unparalleled in Scripture, defied the natural laws set at creation. The sun halted in its course across the sky, and the moon remained motionless, extending the day beyond any human expectation. This divine intervention not only granted Israel the time necessary to secure their decisive victory, but also affirmed God's ultimate authority over all creation, the miracle of the sun, standing still. A testament of faith, it was a striking testimony of God's faithfulness in answering the prayers of His people and intervening in their moments of need. The miracle of the sun standing still remains one of the most remarkable events in biblical history, reminding us of God's unlimited power and the importance of trusting Him in all circumstances. Joshua 10:12-14 records this incredible miracle. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Aijalon." So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies, as it is written in the book of Jashar. The sun stopped in the middle of the sky, and delayed going down about a full day. There has never been a day like it before or since, a day when the Lord listened to a human being. Surely the Lord was fighting for Israel. The miracle of the sun standing still is more than just a display of divine power. It is a powerful reminder of the role of faith in the life of believers. The story of Joshua and the miracle he witnessed teaches us profound lessons about trust, perseverance, and the nature of divine intervention. As we contemplate this extraordinary event, we are led to reflect on the essence of true faith. Faith is not merely an intellectual belief, but a deep conviction that moves us to action. Joshua exemplifies this truth in his response to the crisis at Gibeon. He did not only believe in the existence of God, he trusted fully in His power and willingness to act on behalf of His people. Moreover, the miracle of the sun standing still reminds us that God is always present in our battles. He is a God who not only hears our prayers, but also acts for us when we call upon Him. Just as Joshua faced Israel's enemies with courage and faith, we too can face our own challenges with confidence, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. Finally, the miracle challenges us to expand our expectations of what God can do in our lives. Too often, we limit God's power with our narrow vision and lack of faith. Yet, this story reminds us that there are no limits to what God can accomplish when we trust Him with all our hearts. Therefore, as we reflect on the miracle of the sun standing still, may we be inspired to cultivate deeper faith and to place our full confidence in God's power to fight our battles. Let us follow Joshua's example, facing our challenges with courage and trust, knowing that we serve a God who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. Thank you for watching this video to the end. We hope you have been inspired by this powerful story of faith and divine intervention. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to leave a like and share it with your friends. And to make sure you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, subscribe to Peace Drawn and activate the notification bell. Together, let us continue exploring the wonderful stories of the Bible. May God bless you, and see you in the next video.